Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. My name is Charles, and with me today, as always, is my lifelong friend and co-host, Dylan.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy with my friend, Charles.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy with my friend as well, Dylan, and not just any fantasy today, because today we've got a lot to get into here. This will be kind of this new episode style that we were talking about, where we've got a couple different stories that have come up in the fantasy world just over the past week. Some of these are only a couple days old, and we are gonna talk about them, catch up on some of the reading that we've been doing, and that's the episode. So I think this will be fun, and I think people are going to enjoy it.
Me too. I was excited when we were texting and you're like, why don't we do the informal thing we were talking about? Because I was like, we made this big shtick about watch out, we're going to be doing these real informal conversations. So we just we're doing the exact same thing we had been doing. So it's with very clear topics for our episodes. So I'm excited to bring this more informal conversational tone and just talk about, shoot the crap, as we would say on our family friendly podcast. But I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see how this goes. We did have a few things that are kind of points we wanted to hit on, but we'll just let the conversation go where it goes as well, and
do it. And the one thing I wanted to show you, Dylan, at the top, and I think this is the most newsworthy thing that's happened in fantasy this week. Let me see if I can go ahead and share my screen here. What do you make of this picture?
What I make of this picture is that people need to find their way onto YouTube to take a look at this and watch our episodes in that format. But yes, if you are remaining audio only, we're looking at a George R.R. Martin. And I hadn't seen this before, so I'm excited. We're looking at a George R.R. Martin wearing, for some reason, Tyler Durden style, red tinted shades. But importantly, he is holding a direwolf pup. Which is absolutely wild to me. So I got told, everyone's probably heard about this. It was on the cover of Time magazine or whatever. Not George, but the idea that a direwolf had been revived from extinction by modifying, was a gray wolf's DNA or something.
They put direwolf DNA into a wolf embryo or something. I don't know. So it's to call it a direwolf is a bit of artistic license, but it is a wolf with direwolf DNA. I think it's fun.
But
it's a direwolf, people. Come on.
Is it genetically identical to a direwolf? No. Is my question.
The
no.
Article, and we can go through it. It says with direwolf DNA. That's with artificial and natural flavors. It's those flavors are artificial, man. There's there's maybe a little bit of natural flavor in there. But we can dive into the article. The headline is George R.R.
Can I ask you something important here before we get into it? So when I was first told this, okay, never mind. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
Did you know direwolves were real before this article came out?
No,
Me neither.
I thought they were a mythical creature.
Me too.
I knew the woolly mammoth was real, but this was an interesting one. I was like, oh wow, they got a hold of it. So the headline is George R.R. Martin got to hold a direwolf. Extinct animals rebirth, quote, has stirred me. So George R.R. Martin got to hold
stirred me.
And it says, thanks to Peter Jackson, he got to meet the direwolves in the real world. That was a little bit of a twist that I didn't realize at first. So imagine that.
I just assumed that when they revived the direwolf or whatever, that George would have been the first person that they would reach out to about this. Don't you think they'd be like, I mean, when people heard direwolf, I think 98% of people were thinking, wait, the Game of Thrones animal? That's real? If
Right.
they're anything like us, which maybe we are not a strong representative of the
Yeah.
population. So the idea that Peter Jackson had to get involved, who has also fantasy fame, of course, but has no affiliation with direwolves. Like Lord of the Rings has no direwolf action in it.
Right.
I don't know. I don't. How did Peter Jackson have a role in this?
So I will tell you how. So it turns out that Peter Jackson, is an investor in this company called Colossal Biosciences, which is a company that is founded to bring back extinct creatures like the woolly mammoth, and is a Harvard medical biologist and a tech entrepreneur coming together. That just sounds like the recipe for something evil.
Jurassic
Yeah,
Park.
yeah,
This is
exactly.
this is so Jurassic Park. It
Yeah,
is frightening because
yeah.
it starts with the dire wolves, but then it goes to the dinosaurs. Of course, that is. I have no idea if they're actually having any desire to do that, but
You, I mean,
if
just
that's
enough
even
to have woolly
feasible at
mammoths and
all. Woolly
dire
mammoths
wolves
are
coming walking around is bad enough. That would be
Yeah, woolly mammoths are definitely next. I think they said they wanted to get that done by like 2028 or something like that. And I assume it's just going to be like an elephant with hair, and they're going to be like, "Look, the mighty woolly mammoth!" It's like
right.
that is a hairy elephant. But the oh, Charles, on the are they real topic?
Yeah.
A member of our high school who will remain nameless. I do remember during, I think, our earth science class. I don't think you were in this earth science class because you were on the accelerated track when it came to science.
For a
And
little
look where
while.
that's gotten you,
Yeah.
the into the world of
I'm here
marketing.
being like,
And
dire wolves are real.
yes. Uh, so I'll say there was a member of the class that found out in whatever it was, ninth grade, or I don't remember when we took that, but uh, she found out during that class that dinosaurs were real. Like she was having the reaction that
Hmm.
we are having to the direwolf right now, where she
I was
thought it was
not in
like
that class.
dinosaurs were a mythical creature. And she found out when we were talking about like fossils, she's like, wait, dinosaurs are real? And it
Yeah.
wasn't one of those we won't delve too deep into this, but like it wasn't one of those religious things where they're like, I know dinosaurs are supposed to be real, but I don't believe in it. It was a like you might as well have been telling her unicorns are real, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
this was
pretty
my moment.
scary.
This was my moment
Yeah.
to experience that kind of thing, and I've increased empathy for our high school
Yeah.
classmate who will remain nameless.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. We all got to extend each other a little bit of grace, and we're learning new things every day.
We all are.
Like, dire wolves are real. And this company has a valuation of over $10 billion, which is a little scary.
Higher
But
than FTF.
yeah, just a little bit. It reminds me of like that company that I keep seeing is like Boston Dynamics, where they've got the robots, and now it's like the robots can jump off of ledges and do karate kicks and dance and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's going right to the military. The second it can shoot a gun, that's where it's going. And so now it's like, okay, now we're working the biology side too. We got the dire wolves, the woolly mammoths. We're not far from wargs and olifants. I mean, why else would Peter Jackson have invested in this?
That's a great point, Charles. Yes,
Mm.
before we know it, it'll be woolly mammoths wielding cannons or something,
Right.
and they will be fighting our enemies while
Exactly.
direwolves ride on their backs.
Exactly. Exactly. That is modern warfare. It's coming.
Yes,
So
that's where it's heading.
it's heading that way. So here's the situation. So Peter Jackson is invested in this company that takes DNA of extinct animals and uses biology and science and technology to try and bring them back in one way or another. And so they had this big breakthrough with the direwolves, and Peter Jackson is like, "Ooh, you know who would be interested in this? my buddy George. So it's just like, yeah, obviously. And
Yes,
so,
that's the most obvious connection possible. Is
so,
that George R. R. Martin might be interested in direwolves being
right.
real.
So Jackson calls George, which is like, okay, they have each other's number. That's interesting. Like, what are they talking
Does
about?
that surprise you at
It doesn't
all?
surprise me, but it just interests me of like now I had never pictured them like having a telephone conversation before and now I'm trying to picture it and I find it very interesting.
I like you
And
didn't go to text because I
well, it says
doesn't George like
Jackson's calling him and they're
yes.
of another generation, man. Like I
I
don't
know,
know.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
and
No, I'm
also
not I'm
like
saying call
texts
was
you
the
could
right
be
way to
like,
go.
"Hey George, it's Peter Jackson." It's like, "Yeah, okay. Who is this?" You know. Hearing the voice is another realm.
Well, I assume he had him in his contacts, but
Mm.
I'll say they definitely, if they do text, they do that like classic baby boomer move where for some reason they love using like ellipses
Yeah,
and
or
like,
they'll
or even
go
like four dots. Like they'll go extra dots beyond the ellipses, like dot, 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 dot. Let me know about the dire
it's
wolves.
like, hey, bro, big news, wolf head emoji, and then you'll go,
Yes.
regards, comma, line break, Peter Jackson. It's like, I know who you are. You don't have to put it in your signature. But so he gets a call and he says, you have to call this guy named Ben Lamb, who I think is the CEO of the
Mm.
company or at least works in the company. He's like, Peter's like,
The lamb creates the wolf.
oh, well
There's something
said.
there.
There is something
Yeah.
poetic about that. It's
Yeah.
or is it a wolf in lamb's clothing? I don't know.
Wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but there's
I made the
oh, you were
I purposely
purposefully
because the guy's name is Lamb. But
you
yes, you are
inserted a
right.
lamb into that, much like the direwolf DNA was
Yes,
inserted into a mere
yes.
gray wolf.
So he's basically said, "Yo, I've taken an oath of silence, but call this guy." And
I
so
love they talk like exactly what like fantasy creators would talk about like
I've
isn't that
taken a
called an
sacred vow.
NDA? Isn't that called a non-disclosure agreement or something? But
There
it's
are
like Peter
those, yeah.
Jackson is like I'm signing this oath of silence. It's like, well, we called an NDA.
Right.
It's like oath of silence.
Yes. My comrade George, I pray this message finds you well. I've taken an oath of silence, but a quest awaits you. Contact biology wizard, Ben Lamb. He has unlocked a secret that could change your life forever. And
Well
then
said.
we get greeted with this picture right here of George holding the direwolf pup. And if that's not the best PR for your direwolf reviving business, I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
So and George is looking good, by the way. I do want to say that
He
like
does look
he
good.
showed up, dressed to kill, as they say. He's got like the cool hat, he's got the beard going, um, his embroidered kind of little vest thing. He's got the what's that actor that wears those glasses? He's in The Shining. Jack Nicholson.
Jack
Jack
Nicholson.
Nicholson. Yeah, he's got the
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson glasses, and he's looking good. Maybe even slimmed down a little bit. Dare I say?
I think he's looking good all around. You can tell he has outsourced the sartorial concerns. The dressing has been outsourced to someone else because there's no way
Yeah, he's got
George
the stylist.
of Suspenders fame has chosen this outfit on his own.
Yeah,
And
he's
yeah,
got.
you're right. The shape of the glasses are way more Nicholson than they are Durden. So I'll give him that. But
Yeah,
the red lenses
yeah,
is wildly Durden for George to be doing. You don't see that
exactly.
a lot, the
You
red
don't. You don't.
lenses.
And so there he is holding the pup, and you could tell like this man is ecstatic. Like he's cracking the smile, but you can tell like this man is full of glee. Um, and then this is his tweet right here. He tweeted the picture out and he said, D-Day came early, April 7th instead of April 8th. Direwolf Day. Oops. Which I find a little in poor
Yeah, it wouldn't be
taste.
my choice.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I wouldn't
get
have
like
said
the
it that way.
timing is crazy that it's a day before D-Day and you got direwolves and this and that, but it's like, That was a harrowing day in World War II. A lot of people
Yes,
stormed the
not
beaches of
my
Normandy
choice.
to fight Nazis and got gunned down. So we want to be respectful of our World War II veterans. So I don't know if I would have tweeted something like that,
Yeah.
but
I mean, famous World War II veteran, I think Seymour Wiener was uh, became pretty prominent after throwing an opening day, I think, pitch for the Mets last year,
oh well,
and we want to respect the Seymour Wieners of the world when we're
we
saying things like this.
honor them absolutely. So D-Day did not come early. It's on the same day it always is because that's when troops died on the
It's
beaches of
just
Normandy.
ignored.
You know, yeah. So that's
That
that day didn't change. So we want to be just mindful of that. But we're happy for George. You know that he's out there living his best life, holding dire wolves. He like invested in like some sort of like railroad project. You know, he's living his best life. Of course, as you can imagine, all of the comments are um, jokes about Winds of Winter, which I don't know. We've talked about this a little bit, Dylan, but I'm kind of when I look at that, and even anytime George is mentioned, whether it's a Reddit thread, a social media post, pick your platform, it's always comes back to wow, anything other than writing Winds of Winter. Just like it's not to me,
right. Should George just,
it's not
in
funny
their
anymore.
eyes, should George never do anything except write Winds of Winter? Like, in their eyes,
In
George
their
should be
eyes, does he
getting this
owe him?
call
Does he
from
owe them
Peter
the book?
Jackson. Like, they think he should get this call from Peter Jackson and say, "Sorry, Pete, I'm not going to do anything except write Winds of Winter." And
That's my writing
I'm
day.
going to
I need to
pass up on
respect
this
that.
incredible opportunity that I'm ridiculously excited about because Winds of Winter isn't out. It's like, I mean, it's tough. I think a lot of us in George's shoes would have a hard time motivating ourselves to write a preposterously
Oh God,
complicated fantasy novel. Like he's of a conventional retirement age, we'll say, and
sure.
he is uh, ridiculously wealthy. He can do whatever he wants,
Yeah.
and pretty much he just has to. If he's gonna write this ridiculously complicated fantasy novel, he has to have pure love of the game,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is something, but it's hard. It is
Oh yeah,
hard.
and that's like my thought is like, look, he's got all this huge success. He was on late night
Yeah.
shows. He's reviving dire wolves. Like y- if he's not feeling inspired to write, the last thing you want is to shame him into feeling obligated to write something soon. You know, artists need to be inspired, and if that's going to take 20 years for him to feel inspired, if someone else has to go on and finish these books on his behalf later on posthumously, like then so be it, man. It's the last thing I would want is for George to compromise his vision or not live the best life that he deserves. And to me, also, it's like when I think about putting myself in George's shoes, it's like I've got nowhere to go but down releasing that book. You know, like even if the book was beloved, like yeah, he'll sell a lot of
Yes,
copies,
and
people will like it, but the risk of it being a disaster is way higher. Like he's got very little to
yes.
gain and so much to lose
Here's here's here's
releasing that
my
book.
here's my one counter to that is that I do think his legacy was very slightly
Yeah,
tarnished by the poorly
very
received,
slightly. The
and in
guy
my
can't
opinion,
do
poor.
anything without getting
Um,
blasted on the
no, no, no,
internet.
no, 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 no. I'm saying by the poor showing of the end of the show.
Mm.
Whether that's
Mm-hmm.
fair or not, which I would say probably mostly not fair.
Yeah.
I think there was because people still think of when they think of Game of Thrones, they're thinking about oh the ending sucked, and I think there's a little piece of George R.R. Martin's legacy that is impacted
Mm-hmm.
by that. And of course, his legacy is also being impacted heavily by not finishing the books, as you were implying. So I think if
Yeah.
he finished the books,
Mm.
there would be, and if they were good, there would be a very positive impact to his legacy in terms of he finished the books and they were
Yeah.
good. And there would also be hopefully this change in narrative from, okay, it's completely just the show messing it up. And it's not that George's ending is bad. And while I'll stay away from specifics for spoiler reasons and stuff or whatever, I personally think that the ending is probably very similar in terms of just pure
Yeah.
facts of the
Yeah.
ending.
Hmm.
I expect that the ending is, and there's some word from George and others that imply this might not be the case, but I still believe what I believe around this. I think that ending is very similar in terms of where the characters end up, but the
Yeah.
problem is that I it basically felt like Benioff and Weiss filmed an outline,
Yeah.
like bullet points,
They were
right,
cashing out.
of
Yeah.
the rest of the show. So it
Mm.
never felt earned how we got from the where we were at the end of the A Song of Ice and Fire books to the end of the show, right?
Yeah.
It never felt like we got to those points in a way that felt natural. But, and I think George, if he does, hopefully he does finish the books,
Yeah.
uh, he would write it in a way that felt earned, even if it ended up in the same exact spot. So I just figure that there are some things to gain. It's just that, yeah, I guess I'm kind of talking myself into their legacy reasons, but there's mostly like love of the game. You have to really want to finish it. And
Yeah.
that's so difficult. So I do think there's stuff I'll say, Charles,
Yeah.
your point about there's hardly anything to gain and so much to lose. I think it applies better to Patrick Rothfuss than it does
That
to
also,
George R. R.
he's in the
Martin when I
same
think
boat
about
too, where he can't do anything online without getting. And I sympathize with him as well. And I'm always of the philosophy: let the artist write when they're ready. As much as I would love, absolutely go nuts to read Winds of Winter and Doors of Stone and all this,
yes.
like two of the most anticipated books that we've had for decades now. It's like, of course, I want to read those just as bad as anybody else. But to me, it's like what I want is the authentic version of that. And if the author has to work through some stuff and get to that place where they want to do it, I want to make sure I'm respectful of that. It's not even productive, and at this point it's not even funny anymore to make
Right.
these observations of, oh, they're doing something that's not writing the book, or coming up with a pun with the headline and the fact that they're not writing. It's like, play it out, dude. We've read that joke. Like, if you're someone who thinks of that and then types it and posts it under the comment, it's like, what? Why? It's not even funny anymore. If it is funny, like, I'll respect that for sure. Like, there's certainly jokes to be had, but at this point, it's just like a reflex to comment on this stuff, and it's not productive. It's not entertaining. It's just kind of getting in the way. It's just spam of trying to get like a nice dialogue going with the author and the fans, you know? So
Yeah.
wish these guys the best. Happy for George living his best life. I'm trying to see if there's anything else of note to bring up here. He mentions how the origin of him thinking about Song of Ice and Fire was when he saw Direwolf pups in like a exhibit, and that was what kind of triggered his whole. He said, when I saw a direwolf exhibit 400 skulls arrayed on a wall, something stirred inside me, and that was in 1991. And the first scene
Wait,
he
so they
imagined.
totally, it was a very misleading like subheader or whatever
Hmm.
that would be called, because the something stirred inside me was in reaction to a thing that happened to him like 30 plus years ago.
Well, maybe he said,
Not to the, did he say it again? He said
maybe,
something's, does it, you're saying he said twice something stirred inside me
I don't know,
in
man,
this
it's the
article?
news. They've you
Dude,
gotta
that's
take it with a grain of
BS.
salt.
Because the thing said like new Direwolf revival, something stirred, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
all it said is rebirth dot 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 stirred inside me. So let's see if we can uh,
it said something stirred inside me
something stirred
from the
inside.
rebirth. But in the article, it says something stirred inside him from from the
Has
thing
stirred
he
me. I have to
experienced
say
in
that
like
the rebirth of the
1990.
direwolf has stirred me as no
Oh,
scientific
okay.
news has since Neil Armstrong
Okay,
walked
I
on the
guess
moon. He said it
George just
twice.
gets stirred. Yes, he did. You're right.
His
George is
editor will need to
stirred.
take a look at that, you know. Come on.
Right.
So, but
Like, can we
anyway,
think of a
just to say,
second way to say something stirred? Can we think of not saying something stirred inside me ever? Because that's a weird phrase.
he's an old timey fantasy author, man. Let him have his
Yeah,
works. Um,
it's fair.
so that's
They took his suspenders. We can't take his favorite phrase.
exactly. So, let's go ahead and move on here. So we've got a little, um, but did you know that that was the first scene he thought of? All the Stark kids
I
like,
did
discovering
know
the
that. I
direwolf
did
pups.
know that.
I felt like I knew
I
that,
mean, I
but yeah,
think if you asked it like a trivia question, what was the first like scene that George thought of? I think I would have been able to get that answer, but I
yeah,
hadn't thought of that in a while.
yeah, exactly. So it's the direwolf that kind of spawned the whole show. So there you go. And I also heard him say he was thinking of fantasy like watching the ships come in and stuff like that. So
Do
um,
do we know? Well, he also there's some idea of like he had fish as well. Have you heard this one? There's something with like he had a bunch of fish and they kept dying off, and like in his head he was thinking about them as like royal people in medieval age and they were all killing each other. And it's like, George, feed your fish. But he, I don't know. I think that, I mean,
poor
ideas
George.
like as big as Game of Thrones don't come from like this one moment. It's
Yeah,
all of it
he's
kind
had a
of
bunch of his sources of
synthesized.
inspirations. Here's another one
Right.
of him with the CEO of the biotech company. Look at that. You see that happy, the direwolf pups, and there you go. So that's George for you. Yeah, we got direwolves back after 10,000 years before we got the Epstein files or what. Aha, very funny.
Why is the Epstein files
It's
involved?
just one
I
of
mean,
those
it
internet
honestly
things of
would
like
have,
release the Epstein
yeah,
files
I
is
know about that. But it just, I feel like this joke could have been stronger without referencing the Epstein. But who knows? Maybe
who
right? You could
knows?
have, concision is
Yeah,
important. We
yeah.
got direwolves back
There
after
was
10,000
one
years
comment I read that was
before
kind
we
of
got
funny
Winds of Winter. I mean,
about
it's kind of, this isn't terrible. This is not a terrible joke.
no, it's
Like,
not
this is,
terrible.
I would drop the Epstein Files thing just to get to the point quicker about Winds of Winter. And I would, but it's not bad.
It's not
Like,
bad.
we
He's
got
cooking.
direwolves
They're
back
they're
after
cooking here.
10,000 years before we got the Winds of Winter. Not
Yeah,
terrible. Not a
not
terrible joke.
not
Kind of
terrible
funny.
at all. We're
But
nowhere close to 10,000 years on our wait
sentiment,
for Winds of Winter, but I do get the joke. There was one that I thought was funny about like we'll have to extract George R.R. Martin's DNA and create him in order to
okay,
get the
that's not
book, and that
terrible either.
that was funny. That
You
one I
just
was
like
like,
insert it into a Brandon Sanderson child.
yeah, exactly.
Like one of Brandon Sanderson's kids, and you just insert some George R.R. Martin DNA, and that would make, because the problem, like Sanderson finished Wheel of Time famously, it's like, but writing style wise, like Sanderson, he'd get the books done,
Yeah,
but he's
now
not all a
that's
fit
funny
for,
because you have he picked up Wheel of Time and finished it, right? Now it's like
yeah,
Brandon Sanderson is now surrogate for George R.R. Martin to help finish Winds of Winter.
yeah,
It's like that would be there's a joke there. That's funny. That's funny because
yeah.
it's like it's one thing that he writes so much, but now it's gotten into
He needs George
biological
DNA
preservation. Yeah, exactly.
to be able to truly write the end. He needs some George DNA, where he was already close enough to Robert Jordan genetically, where he could write Wheel of Time.
Oh, well, there we go. That was our George R.R. Martin coverage. It's good to talk Game of Thrones again. I've missed it. It's
I
nice.
thought about bringing it to Friends Pitching Fantasy.
I would have been tempted.
Did you think about it too?
I
Or
haven't
no?
thought about it in a long time. I had pitched it once in our early days during the COVID
Yeah.
years, but I haven't really gone back to it since. But I think we're overdue. Like my memory of it is starting to fade and deteriorate, and it would
Oh,
be
me
nice
too.
to be able to have that lore and knowledge fresh in my head again, just for the sake of this show too.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll just have to wait and see, because for now there was another exciting piece of fantasy news. Mark Lawrence did an AMA on the R Fantasy subreddit just a few days ago to promote the release of the book that held her heart, which, if I'm not mistaken, is either out now or by the time this episode's out, it will have come out for sure. And so that is the third book of
I figure
the
it probably
trilogy.
came out this last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because it was Tuesday,
Exactly.
So I think it did come out.
So let's go ahead and take a look at that subreddit. Not too much to say on this. I took a quick look, other than to go read it, obviously. The thing I really appreciate about Mark Lawrence, beyond the fact that he's an incredible writer, is that he's always committed to this online community. He does an AMA every year. He does the Spiffbo contest every year, and it's become an institution. It's been 10 years that we've been doing Spiffbo now, and so like to see him engaging with the audience, and he even engaged with us very early in our career in the fantasy community. He was there in the comments, supporting us, and we wrote in questions, he replied back, he's been on the show eventually, so it's just
and
always
just
nice
recently on you, like our first foray onto YouTube, actually doing video content, Mark commented on the YouTube video to say welcome back.
He did.
I mean, he's been of authors, he has been our greatest supporter, and
one of my favorite blurbs that we use for our show is "a great listen," which was what Mark Lawrence had said in a tweet, like in the first year of our show. And so
to our Red Sister episode,
which is like the perfect kind of front of a fantasy cover, where it's like a great listen, or a great read, George R.R. Martin, a great writer. It's just one of those like classic cover blurbs, and so we take that quote with pride. I can kind of show the this is the thread for anyone interested, and what's kind of one of the main two things I took from this. One is the man has published 18 books and 4 short story collections, which is pretty wild. Like, that is very, very high, and we love that for him. And then the other thing was, he claims in here, and we know this about him, and it always blows my mind, is that he writes a book, from the beginning to the end. He does not plot, he does not storyboard, he does not do anything. He
basically doesn't edit either.
He's he starts with the first word of the first sentence, and he writes the whole book. He doesn't write a scene and then come back and write an intro. Like some authors will write and then come back and work the beginning and or start with the end or something like this.
Or scenes that stick out to them as oh, this scene has me really excited, I'm going to write that, and then I'll fill in the gaps. I mean, it's just the most typical, almost no one does this.
He goes, I don't draft or plan, I just start writing and keep going till I reach the end. I find there's very little tweaking required normally, but there is some. Everyone writes differently though, often very differently, so my main advice is not to put too much stock in advice and to find your own path. Obviously, don't pay much attention to that though. So there you go. That always blew my mind about him. But when you talk to him and you see his background, you realize he's just a brilliant guy, and probably has all this stuff in his head already. So when you have these complicated sci-fi-esque settings, he can, it works for him to just go. And I guess that also makes him lean towards the prophetic side. This trilogy, he's done a book a year for 3 years. He cranked it out, and so there's a lot of respect for an author like that, especially coming off of our George conversation.
Yep, that's well said. I mean, it's always interesting. I think people ask these kind of questions. I saw one that was when in the process did you come up with the opening line for Red Sister, which we'll always describe as one of, if not our number one completely favorite opening line in fantasy. It's well, I won't butcher it by trying to go off of memory, but uh,
Yeah, let's see if I
the
can find it. Oh, here, I
the
got it. You want me to read
questions.
it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it says, I think it was the first line I wrote. I didn't agonize over it or think it was particularly special, just a decent opener. It's hard to remember, TBH. I think I had the idea early on that girls entering the order would adopt new names rather like a pope does, and that this gives me the opportunity to ascribe any of the novices to being Sister Thorn, and that it would be fun if it wasn't the obvious choice. But that was as far as I got, and it was only decided when it became important. So that's what we call a pants writer, I would say, to the highest degree.
A
Wouldn't you, Dylan?
pantser, yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, the alternative being an outliner, or people will say like architect or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They'll differentiate architects from gardeners. I think that was a George thing. But I would say, and a pantser being writing by the seat of your pants. I'll say, I think people almost. They want this like profound moment like Mark was going about his life and hit by this epiphany, and oftentimes the answers are these just very straightforward, like, well, I sat down to write, so I had to write the first line, so
And it's
then I
funny
wrote
that
that
he's like,
line
I
that
thought of
everyone's
it and
always
I was like,
talking
that's
about.
fine. He wasn't like, oh, that's badass. I'm
Yes.
writing that right now. He's like, I need, like, let's start with the first sentence. How about this? Yeah, that's good. Second, let's keep going. It's nuts. Mad
Yeah.
respect for that. And no, I'm excited to finish the library trilogy, the
Hmm.
book that held her heart. We have read the first two books. We've had Mark Lawrence on the show, so it's looking forward to completing the library trilogy. And he also teased that he's got book one of a new trilogy coming out, and he describes it as something darker and more violent and closer to the Broken Empire. This one's
Yeah, that's
called
what I
The
was figuring.
Academy of Kindness and opens with Daughter of Crows. He wanted to call it Hag, and I remember him mentioning that about how he wanted to call it Hag on I think on our
Interesting.
interview with him he mentioned. And yeah, so really
And
excited
then
to
it looks like one of the things out of our friends creating fantasy generator,
yeah,
Daughter of Crows.
exactly.
The
There's
Academy of Kindness is a little different, though it follows the format. It's a little
and it's kind of tongue in
striking
cheek
as a
too.
different kind of right. It's a super violent, dark thing, and it's
Yeah,
called the
I like
Academy
the
of
word
Kindness. So
kindness
that's
because it's like, ooh, what does that mean? Like, obviously, it has a sinister implication to it. Yeah, I do like the choice. And Academy also, Mark Lawrence has also pontificated on this of like, I gotta get into
yes,
I need to crack
we've
the
talked.
code of the trend that's popular, man. He's like, people seem to really care about
I
schools.
don't think he's framed it that way.
But he
I
has
think,
said like, I
and I
see
think
schools,
that
the school format's popular, and that's kind of what he wanted to try and do.
did he Did he say that explicitly, or was that you connecting the dots after seeing
He
his review of the
explicitly
Charles?
said he saw
After
the
seeing the
trend.
review of the Name of the Wind, I feel like this was a you
Oh,
connecting
maybe it
dots
was the Name
because
of
you
the Wind
read his
review.
review of the Name of the Wind, and his review of the Name of the Wind is interesting because it's very positive. I do think he gives it five
Let me see if I
stars.
can
Name of
find
the
that.
Wind, Patrick Rothfuss, but the tone of it is like I read this book to figure out why this book is so much more popular than a lot of other books. And I feel like I guess you only have to be slightly better than most other books to rise to extreme prominence. Like it's that kind of thing where he's like, I get that maybe this is slightly better than some of these other books, but why is it way more popular than all of these other books? And he came away being like, it's really good, but
Oh yeah, here it is. So
I'm
I'm
not
gonna here. I'll
entirely sure
oops.
about this whole thing.
Hold on.
And I think you connected that dot to like, and then the next thing he
It's in
did was
his
write
head,
Red
Yeah,
Sister.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like, okay, I'm writing an academy book. But did
He's
he ever say that? I don't think he ever said that
That's
explicitly.
fair, but we knew it was in his head. And here's his a quote from his review of The Name of the Wind that's on Goodreads right now. Like Bloodsong and many other really successful
Hmm.
books, The Name of the Wind is at its core a school story. Harry Potter, Wizard of
Mm.
Earthsea all feature magic schools. For Bloodsong and Ender's Game, it was a battle school, but the point is that schools plus lessons plus master combo sells bucket loads if you write
Okay,
it
he
really
did
well
say
and
that.
plumb it into a compelling larger picture. With Magic, the school system also provides a painless way of educating your readers in the magic system you have by virtue of it being delivered through formal education, elected to use. Was there anything wrong with it? For me, it's the whole, and then I broke another string, and blah, 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 blah. He's getting into all the stuff. But, okay.
Did he give it 5 stars?
Yes, I give this five
Yes, he
stars
did.
with no begrudging. I'm pretty easy with my 5 stars, and there's no not reserved for the best book I've ever read. It's just very good books. I thought Name of the Wind was very good. I read it in what was for me a very short span of time. It had the Moorish quality that bestsellers. So there you go.
Yep.
So yeah. So he at least acknowledged. He's like, there's something to this genre. Perhaps
Can you read the
I
next
should write
line,
something.
Charles?
Can I
Yeah,
see
it
what
does.
makes this the single best epic fantasy for a generation apart from George
Best-selling,
Martin's
he
series?
said the single
No.
best-selling.
Yeah. And then he says no, except that perhaps the lesson is that to be head and shoulders above your competition in sales, all you need is to be better by a nose. After that, the nonlinear dynamics of the market take over and elevate you to godhood. A little bit of a begrudging review, I think, here, but
I think what he's begrudging is that I guess disproportionate difference between the increase in quality, right, compared to the increase in sales, where he's like, it's maybe one notch above these other epic fantasies in quality, but it is like 10 notches above
and
in
he's
terms of how
like
much more it
trying to
has
crunch the
sold.
data of like the sympathy of the book, his own experience with it, good read reviews, book like articles, and then the actual sales. And he's like, this book has sold an ungodly amount more than many others in the genre, and he's trying to put the data points together on that. So like really fascinating. And this was actually just a year ago, September 14th, 2024, that he wrote that review.
No, we've read.
Maybe he updated it.
He must have updated it. There's no way, because
it does seem relatively recent.
We've
talked about it for years.
About this review for years. Yeah, there's no. That's so interesting.
There you go, guys. Check out our fantasy and check out that AMA, and then also check out Mark Lawrence's library trilogy, starting with The Book That Wouldn't Burn. It is now a complete trilogy, so don't hold out there. So there we go, Dylan. We got a couple other things on the dock here. I guess the main thing that I wanted to make sure we talked about was reacting to our YouTube comments, because they've been so much fun. I mean, when we made the switch to YouTube, it's like, are people gonna watch? How do you grow an audience on YouTube? Like, we already have an audience on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's like, are we ready to make that switch? We have no idea what we're doing.
And it's played out exactly in that way.
It's been pretty close, but I'll say what has surprised me about it has been the comments.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of jump into some of our episodes and take a look at some of these comments here. The first thing that I really appreciated, this was our first episode back, our first one, and the boys are back and I'm here for it, which I think is awesome, from Jonathan P. Brother O whatever 6304. Thank you for the comment, brother. We appreciate that. Brothers Gwyn out in the comments saying the boys are back in town. Hyped fellows with a salute. We salute you back, Brothers Gwyn. We
so we had 2 comments that were like, the boys are back. I feel like something about us maybe is just being 2 men talking about fantasy, and it's very easy.
And we titled the episode
the boys
with
are
"We're back," we are plural boys. So there you go. I'll take it, man. I'll take what I can get. Right back at you, brothers Gwyn, Ed, and Will. We salute you, and we the best to Papa Gwyn as well, which I feel like we can call him. I like to think that we can. So there you go, Papa Gwyn. Heidi 6281, so glad you're back, which is like, always coming in with recommendations as well, which we appreciate.
Heidi has sent a lot of emails too, which are awesome. There's
Yeah.
And Heidi was always like, go to YouTube. Like that's my
Yes.
only place that I can contact you besides sending you emails.
Yeah, and it's much better that
But we
people can
welcome both.
comment on the relevant episode
Yes.
and not just go over to
Yes.
social media and comment nebulously. Like, it helps with the conversation as well.
For sure.
Mark
for sure.
Lawrence down in the comments saying, welcome back. Mark, congratulations on your latest release in the library trilogy. We look forward to, we'll call it Hag for now. We look forward to Hag, and yeah, man, open door, Mark, anytime. Anytime we
Charles, I feel like Hag is, when you see those like songs and the title of the song is something really generic or sounds like it would be a good single, and then in parentheses you see something that would never be what the any sort of marketing
right.
person would want you to call it.
The Birdman effect, yeah.
Yeah, that would be, yes. The unexpected virtue of
ignorance. I think yeah.
Is it Birdman, and then in parentheses the unexpected virtue of ignorance, right? And that's so yeah, movies do that too. I always assume that the thing in parentheses was what the creator wanted to call it, and the compromise between them and whoever is marketing them was like, do not call it the unexpected virtue of ignorance. Call it a freaking superhero name.
Yeah, exactly.
And move forward.
Exactly.
And that was the compromise. I feel like that should be the title. We should bring it to books, right? It's called...
Get the subtitle, like the author's version and then the corporate version. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, just, what was it? Daughter of Crows or whatever is supposed to be Hag. So it would just be like Daughter of Crows and then parentheses, Hag.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that is worthy. At least put it in the online listing, So mention it somewhere. I feel like we deserve that. Preserve the artist's vision. It's so annoying when it's like, oh, call it Crow of Crows, Sword of Crows. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It does sell, though. You can't argue that.
A Raven of Crows.
Here's a comment, looking good, which I appreciate, from Danon33333. Thank you. That was the other big thing about Going video. It's like, God, we always said we had faces for podcasting. So it's like, I don't know if people are going to want this and so the comments on our appearance are hilarious, and we'll be sure to.
What about... I think this leads well into the other one that had us laughing.
I don't know if it was. Let's see. Let's jump to
Was it not on this episode?
No, maybe the. No. Okay, you guys don't look like the Charles and Dylan in my mind's eye. I'm going back to my podcast app, You Imposters, from Mo Norman Jr. That's funny. Yeah, sorry we didn't. I mean, that was the fear that we had, but thanks for the double views. I guess we'll take that.
Can you click the reply?
Oh, there's a whole 3 replies. You have a whole conversation. The good news is you guys are better looking than what I pictured. Well, we appreciate that.
But that means they were listening to us and they're like, these guys are ugly. Like they were listening on their podcast app and they're like, these are 2 ugly men right here.
Well, and we have almost 300 episodes, right? And we've only posted our face.
Why does that make us ugly? Why does having nearly 300 episodes make us more likely to be ugly?
He's not saying we're ugly. He just says you don't look like what I pictured. It's like when you read a fantasy book.
But he's saying we or they, I don't know this person's gender, but they're saying that we're better looking than they expected, which means that they thought we were ugly.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, I'll take that. I mean, we self-deprecate all the time.
I'd rather it be this way than the opposite.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the ideal scenario, that we exceed expectations on the visuals. We'll take what we can get, So, Mo Norman Jr., that was hilarious. Thank you very much for the dialogue on that. We got some saying, we're back. Tails! Oh, from our virtual coin flip. I thought for sure you'd be going with Islington. Yeah, me too. But, it's just something about...
is that Tufty?
That's Tufty McTavish. And it's just something about Gentlemen Bastards that have to go for. But Will of the Many did pique my interest. I'd never heard of it until Dylan's pitch, and so I didn't know about it. I seen the cover. I was like, aware of its existence, but I didn't know anything about it. It was a totally different kind of story than what I had in my head. So
Go
thank you.
back to the "We're Back" episode
Okay,
comments
yeah, here's
because
We're
they're.
Back. Yep. So glad
Oh,
you're
this is where.
back. Welcome back. Looking good. Make sure your polls are here too. Yeah, looking forward to having polls and going live. Like we would love to go live. We just want to make sure people will be there to interact with. And we've never done it before. We're gonna break something for sure, but we're talking about it. It's in the talks. Glad you're back. Tails, I thought for sure. Yeah, Tails is funny. So glad we were able to bring the coin flip to YouTube. That's been a long time coming.
Someone said it was like over, like the visual of the coin flip was overwhelming to them.
Oh yeah, where is
Right?
that
Did you see
comment?
that?
Um, maybe it was on a different episode. Welcome back, or maybe it was like a sub comment.
I'm not sure. I remember they said
I do remember there was a
something
comment.
about
Hmm.
they said something about the like their one criticism was that they were overwhelmed by the visuals of the coin flip.
I can't
And
find that comment on here.
they were like
Maybe
it
it was
was
removed.
overwhelming to look at. That would be sad. That was a great comment. And
That
then I
was a
was like,
great
yes,
comment. Maybe it was
I
on
knew
this.
that it would be a visual feast. No, it had to be on the We're Back because that's
I
where the
know, but I
coin.
just went through all of them and
I
I
definitely
couldn't find
texted
it.
it to you
Was it a
if I could
social
find the.
media like post comment?
Maybe. I'll see if I can find it
Yeah,
because I
see if you
definitely
can
texted
find
it
it.
to
I'm
you.
gonna jump to our next one here. Let's see if we got some other comments here. Love having the video, guys. Really like being able to see the book covers as well. Yeah, that's fun to be able to share the screen like this and show the covers and show off our book collection. It's been a lot of fun. Um, Heidi again talking about the order of the Realm of the Elderlings book, Ship of Magic being number one. That's an interesting take. I agree. That's an excellent book, though. That's probably in my top 3 or 5. But man, Fool's Errand number 2. That's close to my number 1. Fool's Errand is great. So hard to.
Oh, I saw this. This was Chris Horn, and it starts with "All Hail FTF"
Oh, I
on
saw
the
that
We're
one.
Back. I saw that too.
All hail FDF. Oh, although one minor criticism, the on-screen coin flip is visually overwhelming for me. I just couldn't handle the excitement. Chris Horn, we are
Look at my
so
reply.
sorry. Let's see our reply here. Thanks, Chris. Happy to be back, and we appreciate you for giving the episode a watch. We knew that the much-awaited on-screen coin flip was a visual feast that viewers might not be ready for, but we just couldn't help ourselves. We knew that was the risk going into the video format. Imagine how we feel every time FPF comes along. The excitement that we have for the coin flip is so real and it's visceral and dramatic, and the like we knew some audience members may not be ready. We try and keep the show family friendly, and this content may be a little too exciting for most. But
You have no idea if you're not watching, you have no idea what that tail side looks like.
I mean, you have no clue, man. And the
Let
flip in
alone
the
the head
air.
side.
I mean, and who knows? Like, will the next time FPF comes around, like it's coming back. So be sure to check that out. But I'm glad you found that, Dylan. That comment was hilarious. So thank you, Chris Horn. That was probably the comment of the
I love
episode.
the coolest thing is seeing like the inside jokes pop up or like deep cut things,
Mhm.
which I I guess it's just one of those things where it reminds you that these folks have been out there listening to us for years and are in on the inside jokes or things like that. Because we've always talked about the coin flip in a way because we knew the audio only aspect of the coin flip kind of didn't make sense. We'd always talked about the coin flip as like this very, yes, visual experience that was delightful.
No, the comments have been wonderful. And then we have our last our fantasy book bingo episode had some bangers too. Here's Heidi again. Before I even watch, I just want to say how nice it is to have both of you back on a regular basis. Thank you for making time to discuss fantasy, even with your super busy
Aw.
lives, and we appreciate that, Heidi. You know, it's really nice to be able to get back into the community again. It's much like when George decides to release Winds of Winter. We have felt that inspiration to come back and it has been a rewarding process, and we appreciate everyone that felt like they were, waiting for our return. So thank you so much for
And
that.
I don't think we had one person giving us we got the Direwolf back before FDF returned from hiatus type
We
comment.
got
Like
no grief.
every single thing was very supportive. So we really appreciate that.
It's like, wow, Charles is going to work, but he hasn't released another podcast episode. It's like, glad to see you have time to go out for dinner when you're not releasing a podcast episode, So we appreciate that. Although that demand would have been fascinating.
It would have been.
I've been reading Robin Hobb and was looking for discussion on her books and found you guys through Spotify. It's nice to see who I've been listening to. That's B_Caldwell. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're glad. I think that's how most people find us, is through our book discussions, and then we try and pull them into the insanity that is episodes like these. So thanks for sticking around. Okay, Mo Norman Jr.
Oh, wait, is Mo is the same person who said the thing about us looking better than they thought and that they went back to their podcast app, right? So Mo, you just couldn't stay away.
Who called
just
us an
double check
imposter?
that.
I'll double check
I think
that.
that was Mo.
Let me see, what episode was that?
So you just couldn't stay away.
The
We're Back, I think, had the
welcome back, lads. That's the coin flip of the new format. Looking good. Welcome back. It may have been one. Well, defend the gods. Oh, that is Mo Norman Jr. But it was on our Read 25 books. All right.
Just couldn't stay away.
Just couldn't stay away. All right, Mo Norman Jr., here's your comment. My bingo card has watch or listen to an episode of FTF where Charles interrupts Dylan less than 4 times. I've got no chance. Ha ha. Dylan, do you feel you're... I didn't even know that this was happening. Am I that bad?
You're not.
I mean, am I that bad?
You're not.
Am I really that bad?
No,
am I that
I'll
bad?
tell you, you're interrupting.
On purpose.
You interrupted 4 times in that one instance, so you've already
Yep, you'll just have to keep watching, Mo, the whole episode.
I'll say that. Okay, I'll start with, I don't sit there in episodes thinking, oh, Charles keeps interrupting me, so that's not happening. I'll also say I'm always thinking a lot about, should I interrupt? Like, I'll want to say something and I want to keep kind of I don't want to miss the opportunity to make a joke or something. So I think about my own, am I interrupting Charles too much? So it's very validating to see the person seeing Mo say that you interrupt me a lot rather than vice versa. And I'll also say, I feel like we've been friends for, how long have we been friends at this point, Charles?
Second grade.
I mean, yeah. So
decades.
I mean, yes. So I would say you fall into patterns of conversation with people, whereas it just feels natural. And I guess part of our conversations is, I think on both ends, we will occasionally interrupt each other, especially on a podcast format where we're trying to get our little jokes in or whatever. So
it's just always awesome to understand what people pick up on, and it's a fantastic comment. It's hilarious. I never even thought about the fact that I'm interrupting anybody, so it's hilarious to me. I was like, I didn't even think that was a thing that was happening.
Lack of I'm
like, things are going great.
Interrupting a person. So I'll say I think about that very conscious. So when I do interrupt you, I notice I'm doing it, and I'm like, I feel slightly guilty. The fact that you blissfully walk through your life just interrupting people all the time, just with no thought about it.
Just you. Amazing. I have no thought. Never even thought about, am I interrupting Dylan? And here's the other reality. It's I'm filling this producer role, okay? I've got 3 monitors up. I've got volume meters going, screens going. I know when also it's kind of I've kind of fell into this role of moving, like switching
Yeah.
topics and moving topics forward and having the next topic prepared and all of that. And so sometimes I'll be like, okay, Dylan's made his point. I'll come in and rescue him on something, and then I'll also use that opportunity to transition.
You see it as rescuing?
Well, you know, like I'll fill in, like I'll pick that up and I'll transition it. You know, like I'll keep the show moving, which we both do. We're both good at it, but I feel like that because I have to have other stuff kind of prepared sometimes. That is kind of the role that I'll take, but.
I'll say, yeah, I do. I feel that. I mean, we pretty explicitly have put you in that role. So but I also feel at times when you're like trying to move the show forward, and I'm like, keeping us dragged back in some other topic. Probably right now is what I'm doing. Like you were about to go to the next comment, and I'm like, I got something to say on this topic, and you're like, I can tell there's this slight undertone of like, Dylan, please, we have to go to the next thing. This is gonna be a long episode, but yeah, go ahead. Next comment, Charles.
Are you done? I would hate to interrupt you.
Yes.
Okay. This is not an interruption. So, all right. Well, Mo, you just have to keep listening to every episode from beginning to end and count the time so you can cross that off your bingo card. Thanks for the watch time, Mo. But no, the comments are awesome, dude. You're hilarious. So keep them coming. This last one that kind of floored me as well. I felt very appreciative of this one from Danon33333. Again, same usual suspects here. I felt like I heard a lot of reference to friends creating fantasy on this one. Do I have something to be excited for in the relatively near future? Maybe a sequel to The Darkness of Power, which is like, wow, I never thought someone would make a callback to one of our friends creating fantasy episodes. It's been the last one we did was with Christian Cameron. That was over a year ago now. So, or maybe
the darkness of. Yeah, go ahead, Charles. I don't want to.
No. Please. You did the exact correct thing.
Okay, so the man known for interruption is like, no, that was great.
Yeah, that was
I'll
great.
say that I don't know, Charles. Some of this is while you are in this producer role, I'm often the voice of the show outside of the show.
Yeah, you're the man of the people.
Interact with all. Sure. I'm commenting all of these things. So I'll say, and if you comment on YouTube, I will respond to you. As you'll see, Charles, as you were going through this, there was
they all
one reply
have likes
at least
and replies. You are doing great, my friend.
So I'll say that if you comment on our YouTube, at least at this time as we're growing our audience and we don't get as many views as hopefully we will one day, I will respond. But what was I even gonna? What was I even? Oh,
we were talking about FCF.
What was I gonna say? Oh yes, I'll say FCF is way disproportionately requested or referenced in things from our watchers or listeners compared to the download numbers that it used to get. I mean, they did fine, but they were definitely on the lower end of how many downloads they would get compared to the, let's say, book discussions or Friends Pitching Fantasy or recommendations. People love those. So it was like we'd release an episode and be like, do people not like these or want to hear them? But I feel like the people who do download them and listen to them end up really loving them. And anyone who hasn't listened to those episodes or watched, they involve us randomly generating a title of a book, and it's often something super generic like The Darkness of Power. And then we have to use that and a couple other randomly generated things like characters to just come up with an outline, basically like a verbal outline for a book. And people they'll reference things from that. I mean, to reference the actual story of The Darkness of Power, which I can't remember. Was that the one? I was like, which one was that? Was that the one with like the two, like a knight and there was like some past relationship?
The book cover for that one. But honestly, I'm having a hard time remembering which one that is. I'm sorry.
Yes, me
it's
too.
Been so long.
I remember that there was one called The Darkness of Power, which is
which is like a great title.
Generic title.
We had some great ones back in the day. I'm just trying to find the ones that we did. Um, I have to scroll way back in my like art book here, find
Because
them.
you would also make
We
covers.
would make
Yeah,
covers, dude.
it's
But and what's interesting now is that we are in the world of AI, like which wasn't really in the zeitgeist at the time we were doing these. 2 years ago was the last one I had edited. The Crow Knight. That was the one with Christian
okay.
Cameron. And then
Yeah.
we have the Raven's Fantasy. The Darkness of Power. Here it is. The Darkness of
Could you
Power.
show this?
Yeah, sure. This is our canvas screen, so let's see. So here's The Darkness of Power, as seen on FTF, a novel by Friends
Mate,
TLK Fantasy.
a pistol and a sword. It's
And some fire
amazing.
in the background.
Fire.
This was I don't remember this one. Here's The Raven's Fantasy, book one of the Unkindness trilogy, more coherent than I expected.
Ooh, okay.
That may have
So
been
we've
our
got
first
Mark
one.
Lawrence. Mark Lawrence is coming out with the Academy of Kindness, but we have already come out with the at least book
We
one
did.
of the Unkindness trilogy,
We were ahead of
which
our
is what
time.
a pack of ravens is called an unkindness, right?
Yes.
That's why we called it the unkind.
Mhm.
I remember the Tower of
I
Memories. That
remember
was a
the tower.
pretty
That
good
one
one.
was a banger. That I do
Yeah.
remember the tower. And look at this cover I did. Like that's pretty impressive with with
Yeah.
that larger T
Building.
over there, like going over the thing. Yeah, this was a nice one. The Spring of Power. Can't forget that one. By
I
sorry.
think that was more grimdark. That's why you went kind of. I think your cover was inspired by the first law.
Yeah, exactly. And so those are the ones that I have on deck here. There were so many more. There was the Crow Knight. There was the one we did
Well, we
with
have the Crow Knight with Levi.
no, the one we did with Levi was different. The Crow Knight was
The
Christian
That was
Cameron.
with
I remember
Christian
that
Cameron.
one
You
where he was
had
telling
that.
us to use like a
You
sword
showed that.
as a rotisserie
Yes.
for cooking meat, and it was the whole book was about a knight and his squire, and they were like that was a fun one too. That one I always wanted to go back and like write the first page of and like ask Christian to read it. That was one of those things that we just never got off the ground for one reason.
Dude, Christian Cameron is the perfect person
He was
for. That's
so
why
good on
he's.
that.
Yeah,
That
he's
was so
just.
much fun.
You
Here
just
it
like.
goes.
I've always thought with Christian, you just wind him up and let him go, and you just gotta step away. The guy is brilliant. He knows everything about everything, and he's
Oh, here
just.
we go. Yeah, here's the one we did with Levi Jacobs, A Song of Daggers and Betrayal.
A song of daggers and betrayal. Okay, that's good. I
That
think
one I
this was
remember
actually
the
I
main
liked this one
character
too.
was like an older female
Yes.
knight, which was really interesting.
She was kind of like Orca? Or is that no, not Orca. Oh,
Orca
what's the name
is
of the no, Orca is a
book character.
whalish thing.
Yeah, yeah.
No, the character in Papa Gwynn's Shadow of the
Oh,
Gods, or is it
that
Orca?
is Orca. That sounds correct.
I would say our character, this predates The Shadow of the Gods
Yeah.
by John Gwynn. I would say our character had way more poorly written, though it wasn't written, the way more poorly conceived Orca vibes.
Right. No, for
Wouldn't you
sure.
say?
Like
There
we
was like a
definitely
child as well in it.
yeah, yeah, we definitely attempted something like that and it it was a lot of fun. I kind of remember us trying to nail down the tone on that one and we were going all over the place and Levi Jacobs was really fun to have on that. We should definitely um bring that back and find a way to bring it back. It's nice to hear that people are coming in and and you know naming some of those books by name. It's like wow, I thought we were the only ones listening to those because that is when we're at our most like off the wall insane. And it was Orca, by the way, ORKA. The
Gotcha.
is the so yeah, it's it's been a lot of fun, and I think we can put a pause on things there just to say thank you to everyone that's like engaged with us on YouTube already. If you haven't, like, leave a comment and like and subscribe, and we really are excited about that community over there. We're replying. Dylan's out there on the comments, so keep them coming. Love the jokes, love the recommendations, all that stuff. We hear it. It goes straight. We get it. The feedback is direct lined to us. So thank you guys for being a part of our little community here. We look forward to continuing to grow that, and we hope you like this format where we pick some of these topics, reply to some of your comments. Like we anticipate doing more stuff like this in the future. And for now, though, we are off reading The Daughter's War by Christopher Buehlman. That is coming up, and you can expect a full discussion on that in the coming weeks, I suppose.
Yeah, my cat Socks is just releasing a very pathetic sounding whine right now, so I have no
my
idea
dog Riley is kind of walking around and barking too. So I think it's time we wrap up for the sake
they're
of the
kind of
pets.
like, okay, come on, this has been
they
a
sense
long
the
episode.
They sense the wrap it up. Yeah, we were like 40 minutes, and now we're at an hour and 10. So we will go ahead and wrap this up now, Dylan. I think there's nothing left to do but to get that sweet, sweet outro music pumping. What do you say?
Let's get that sweet, sweet outro music pumping, Charles.
All right. Thank you, everybody, one and all, for listening to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. If you like what you heard today, guys, do us a favor, go over and to the YouTube channel and like our videos, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell. Anything you can do over there would be greatly appreciated. And then, Dylan, if they like what they heard today and they want to do something more than engaging with us over on YouTube or on our social medias as well, you can like and subscribe to those as well. Follow whatever it is they do on social media these days. What can they do?
Toss 5 stars to our podcast. You can do that over on Spotify, where still I would say the vast majority of you are listening, which is cool.
Very cool.
Appreciate we appreciate the love on any platform. You can also rate and review on Apple Podcasts. You can write nice things about us over there. You can also follow us, I'll say, on Instagram at the FTF Podcast. I'm thinking about Blue Sky, though, Charles. Blue Sky's on my mind.
Let's at least get the page,
Yeah, we at least should get it before we are stuck with at the FTF Podcast 1. We want at the FTF
Not again.
Podcast.
Not again.
Yeah, we won't let that happen, or maybe we already have. So yeah, if we'll maybe get on Blue Sky, but I mean, you don't have to rate, review. You don't have to follow us on social media, though. It's appreciated, because just listening or watching is more than enough.
Well said, Dylan. Just listening, so much more than enough. Thank you guys for coming along this ride with us. Thank you for listening, and as always, guys, go forth and conquer, Prince.